Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and we have a ton to get into today because we got the real reason as to why Deebo Samuel requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers, amongst many other things to dive into today. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review, and let's dive into Wednesday's news, a hump day edition of the show. And let's start things off with some of the best news of the offseason thus far. You can put it up there with the Robert Saleh rehiring. You can put it up there with maybe the rumored return of Dre Greenlaw. Fingers crossed that comes to fruition. But the NFL today announced that the 2025 salary cap is going to be higher than initially thought. Last year was around $255.4 million. This year, the expectation was maybe you get around $270. Well, in fact, as of today, they announced it will be $277.5 million, in between the range of $281.5 million. So a large raise for the NFL salary cap. Definitely going to help San Francisco amongst other teams. As of yesterday, San Francisco's estimated salary cap per over the cap was around $43 million to spend this offseason, whether it's on Brock Purdy or Dre Greenlaw or incoming free agents or their 2025 draft class. Now, with the change of salary cap, with the increase of the salary cap, they have $50 million to spend, a $7 million increase from what it was supposed to be, or at least estimated to be, which is a massive help for them. When you talk about wanting to bring back Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw, now having to seemingly get rid of Deebo Samuel, you want to extend Brock Purdy, extend George Kittle, restructure or extend Fred Warner, and hopefully sign a few guys to round out your roster. That $7 million really can be your entire draft class. It can be, 4 or 5 depth guys to round out your roster as a whole. And you talk about this team needing to have depth this year. That $7 million can go a long way into helping this team out, hopefully regain their footing in the National Football League. So either way, really great stuff for the San Francisco 49ers, which could go a long way into helping them this off season. The second note that we got, this coming from NBC Sports Bay Area's Matt Maiocco via his own YouTube channel. He said this in regards to San Francisco's safety situation. Now, safety is one of the more intriguing positions on the roster because technically San Francisco does not need to find a new starting safety. However, the safeties they currently have, albeit Malik Mustafa is really good, although second-year pro. You don't know what's going to happen in year 2 for him. You have Jair Brown, who had a really good rookie season once he stepped in for Hufanga when he got hurt. But his second year, this year, was not pretty whatsoever. You saw a lot of inconsistencies from him, but it seems like that's going to be your duo next year, according to Matt Maiocco. As he states, the San Francisco 49ers are open to and believed to be entering next year with Malik Mustafa and Jair Brown as their 2 starting safeties next season. Now, when you hear that, it really shouldn't shock anybody. This idea that San Francisco wants to have 2 under 25-year-old safeties, that are under, third round and fourth round contracts be their starters next year, that have shown really good things when they're playing well, that fit how they want to play defense, that have, safety versatility, whether it be free safety or strong safety. The way both those guys, Brown and Mustafa, play safety are really how Robert Saleh wants those guys to. And San Francisco's never really been one of those defenses to, I guess you can say, value that, roaming free safety with a hard-hitting strong safety. They want their safeties to be able to play both. They really play, in a way, positionless safety football on the back end, which at times comes back to hurt them. I think it's very clear this team would have definitely been helped by a roaming free safety in previous years. Jimmy Ward was phenomenal back there for a variety of reasons, one of those being his ability to be phenomenal in coverage, whereas Jair Brown and Mustafa, albeit Mustafa is much better in coverage than Brown is, Brown really does struggle in coverage at times, mainly getting beat over the top because those are slower safeties. They're in the box, hard-hitting guys that are usually really good run defenders and good tacklers. However, San Francisco seems to be okay giving up some home run plays if it means playing really good stout defense against the run, limiting those plays underneath, which again has its pros, has its cons, but that also means San Francisco, according to Matt Maiocco, is likely not going to bring back Talanoa Hufanga in 2025, which again, really shouldn't be a shock to anybody. I think there's two reasons as to why this is the case. One, Mustafa likely is going to get paid. Like, he's going to get big time money in free agency, or at least big enough money that San Francisco can't or won't match the asking price. I wouldn't be shocked to hear about the Chargers, the Rams, the Colts, maybe a team like the Broncos want Talanoa Hufanga, especially because those teams already have their free safeties in place. Hufanga can be the kind of cherry on top of their defense that can make plays for them, get takeaways, help them get turnovers, force fumbles, gain interceptions, but also the injury factor for him. If you're the San Francisco 49ers, you're losing essentially 4 starters this offseason on defense. Javon Hargrave, Travarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, fingers crossed that changes, but it seems like that's going to be the case, and Talanoa Hufanga. The common thread through all of those guys, especially this year, was injuries. Hufanga had the knee and the wrist. Greenlaw had the calf and the Achilles. Hargrave, I think it was his bicep, tore his bicep, I believe, this year. Then Ward had many off-the-field problems, including injuries on the field as well. So they want to get healthier. They want to get younger. They also want to get cheaper. Well, if that's the way you want to go about things this year, that's why you let Greenlaw walk and you cut Hargrave, you let Mooney Ward walk in free agency, and let Hufanga leave while you have Jair Brown, who this team still has high hopes for. I don't think people understand exactly, how much this defense, how much Kyle Shanahan, how much this regime really likes Jair Brown. I don't think they view 2024 as, that's who he'll be. They view this as the outlier of, okay, who you shown to be, who you proved to be in 2023, that's more up your alley. You are that hard-hitting, better in coverage and expected safety that can get us those takeaways, get us those turnovers on the back end. And, again, you can go back to how he played against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl and got the big interception before or after halftime. Like, Brown looked like a cornerstone safety you hope to pair with Hufanga. Fast forward 1 year, it's okay, you have Brown, who you hope can bounce back this year, pairing with Mustafa, who, again, it's guys going into year 2 and 3. Really young safety pairs, guys you don't have to pay for 1 to 2 more seasons, depending on who you're talking about, and they want to get cheaper. We're going to see San Francisco change their entire draft free agent strategy, where they're not going receivers and cornerbacks and safeties. They're going linebacker and defensive line and offensive line. They want to get those trenches figured out. You can go to the Philadelphia Eagles this past year. They made Patrick Mahomes look human. They ate up a really good Kansas City offensive line. How'd they do that? Front 7. Good coverage linebackers, good hard-hitting, run-defending linebackers as well, and a lot of rotational, top-tier, up-the-middle defensive linemen. San Francisco is saying, you know what? The Eagles had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson playing safety. We have Jair Brown. We have Mustafa, who I think at least one of those guys, being Mustafa, can be a heck of a lot better than C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Well, we can survive as long as we have the trenches figured out, especially going back to that 2019 team where San Francisco surprised the entire world. Don't forget, that was Richard Sherman in his last All-Pro season, great corner, but it was an undrafted free agent Emmanuel Mosley, a rather unproven K1 Williams, at the time unproven Jimmy Ward, who was transitioning to safety, and Jaquiski Tart. While those guys were good in their own rights, it certainly helped to have Nick Bosa and Dee Ford and DeForest Buckner and DJ Jones and Eric Armstead. They're hoping that San Francisco, with the way they draft, who they sign this year, could almost, I guess you can say, limit the weaknesses of their secondary, which can still be really good, by improving the trenches, giving quarterbacks less time to throw, allowing their cornerbacks to have less time to cover receivers and tight ends and running backs, and hopefully combine those two things and say, wow, we don't have to have top paid safeties. No one really ever has to have top paid safeties. The safety market hasn't been very high. You're watching the Miami Dolphins this year, not tagging Javon Holland, who is one of the best safeties in all of football. You watched the last couple years, the Broncos let Justin Simmons go, and they were better for it this year. Now, obviously, having great safety certainly helped your team, but I don't think they should shock anybody. It doesn't shock me whatsoever. And again, when you see that salary cap going up and up and up, the way I view safety is San Francisco is like, look, we have to find somebody. We have George Odom, right? We have Mustafa. We have Brown. This team is probably going to add one more veteran free agent safety. If you look at who is now coaching this team's defense, it's hard not to imagine a player like, say, Ashton Davis, who was with the Jets the past couple of years, was solid California kid, went to Cal Berkeley for college. I don't know if he wants to come back to San Francisco or come back to the Bay. However, there's certainly ties there. You can also point to last offseason, before this team inevitably drafted Malik Mustafa and didn't sign a safety last offseason. They were visiting with Julian Blackmon. Who was Julian Blackmon's defensive coordinator the last couple of years? That's right, Gus Bradley with the Colts. So there are some connections there. Those are two cheaper veteran options you like that can start for you in a bind. Can also be, solid rotational pieces for you on special teams and on defense, but are going to be relatively cheaper than Talanoa Hufanga and Javon Holland and some of your top tier guys as free agents this season. We have some questions here, or some comments here in the YouTube chat. 49ers Throwback says, hit that like button and subscribe. Yes, sir. Bobo says here in the YouTube chat, it's important we hit on these draft picks. It's very true. You can have all the money in the world. You can have 10 to 9 draft picks this year. If you don't hit, it doesn't matter. San Francisco, unfortunately, in those first couple rounds have missed a lot. Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster. You can maybe say Mike McGlinchey, but otherwise, the 2017 draft is not very good. Trey Lance being one of those big hits, or big misses, as well, along with Javon Kinlaw. So yes, it doesn't matter where you pick. It doesn't matter how many picks you have. You got to hit. And this team has the money now, with the cap going up to $50 million for cap space for San Francisco this offseason, with the new rules kind of coming into place and the increase we got this morning. But also, you got $50 million to spend and about 10 draft picks. You have everything necessary to improve your team. You have the money, the finances, the funds to spend on free agents, to trade and acquire people. You have the draft picks to get those top-end guys. And for San Francisco this year, you have that number 11 overall pick just outside of the top 10. You're in a really good spot to hopefully maybe see one of the top blue chips fall down to you at number 11, which will ultimately help your team. A Niners fan says here, George Kittle said that they have 7 first-round players on the team in 2019. Let's think about that off the top of my head. I can't go back that far, but what you have, Nick Bosa at the time, you have DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward, going back to that 2019 team, who was on offense. Kittle wasn't, running back wise, no.
So good, so good, so good.
Get ready, because it's time to save at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through February 23rd, take an extra 40% off red tag clearance boots, jackets, and sweaters. We're talking the best cold weather styles from Vince, Cole Haan, Sam Edelman, and more. All on sale for even less. All sales final. You never know what you'll find, but you know it's gonna be so good. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
McGlinchey. So you have 5. Staley at the time. So we're at 6. I don't know who the next 3 guys are, or the next one person is, but yes, that team had first round picks galore that helped them out all over the place. Which again, when you have first round picks and you hit, things go well. San Francisco in recent years has either not had a first round draft pick or hasn't hit on their first round draft picks. But as of today, you got 10 draft picks. You have $50 million to spend. You're in a really good spot as a franchise. And you hope that whatever happens with Deebo Samuel, which we'll get into that in a second, you can maybe have some more money to spend on the back end with the $7 million increase they saw this morning after the NFL announced the cap going up in 2025. But first, before we get into Deebo Samuel and a potential collegiate replacement, I want to let you know, go to SeatGeek.com and use our promo code 49ErsAccess, 49ERS, ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. People may say, go to StubHub, go to Ticketmaster, go to TickPick. Forget all those. SeatGeek is the best, and I'm giving you 10% off, $20 off your first purchase by using my promo code 49ErsAccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com. And if you're sitting there on your couch, whether you're driving, you're on your phone, you're with your spouse, and you want to feel like the greatest of all time, you want to perform like Jerry Rice, you got to get yourself a can of Goat Fuel. If you want a healthy coffee alternative, or you just want to do your best and perform at the best level you possibly can, click that link down below in the description and grab yourself a can of Goat Fuel to feel like the greatest of all time. All right, let's get to why you came to the show. Let's get to why you're here. The real reason Deebo Samuel requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this was revealed last night by Matt Maiocco, and his answers shouldn't shock anybody. His answers really shouldn't surprise anybody, because these are NFL athletes. There's money, there's feelings, there's emotions involved in what goes on behind the scenes, on the field, off the field, and stuff. But Matt Maiocco yesterday revealed that, and I quote here, something was off about Deebo Samuel's demeanor the entire season. This season was the exact words used. Now, when you hear that, and in my mind, I go back to the OTAs and training camp. Deebo Samuel's there every single day. He's out there training. He's in tip-top shape. He looks phenomenal. He has the new number. Like, Deebo Samuel in the summertime was locked in, ready to go, looking to prove to either the team or somebody else, pick me up or don't let me go. Right? He looked like he was ready to prove a point that he belonged in San Francisco, or as the number one offensive option elsewhere in 2025. He was locked in. There was no distractions. There was no, hurt feelings. But again, things change very quickly. Maiocco points to Samuel's decline in production as one of the reasons as to why things kind of took a downward trend this year. He points out his 6 yards per carry dropping to 3.2 this year, almost a complete half being cut off of his production, which if you watched him play was evident. He looked slower. He looked sluggish. He looked like he was checked out at times. There was some critical drops. He just wasn't the same Deebo Samuel in 2024. Maiocco also believes that the Niners extending Brandon Ayuk and Ayuk's emergence in the offense as the new number one target that's getting 1,000+ yards, 70+ targets a year, and honestly, being Brock Purdy's favorite weapon, Maiocco believes that all of that on top of even Jauan Jennings' ascension this year is kind of what hurt Deebo Samuel's ego. He felt he was being phased out of the offense. So when you chalk it all up, Deebo Samuel got a little bit emotional. His ego got damaged watching Ayuk ascend, Jennings ascend. Ayuk and Jennings both get paid. Him being like, well, I'm just sitting here and I'm supposed to be the guy, but I'm just quietly being phased out of the offense. Although, in theory, not true whatsoever. He got the first touchdown in the season against the Jets. This team force-fed him a lot this year. He had the second most touches up into that Rams game before Mason got hurt. Then he had the most touches to end the year. Like Deebo Samuel, if that was the thought he had and I'm being phased out of the offense, simply it's not true. But I digress. His emotions, his ego was hurt by what San Francisco had done, drafting Pearsall, paying Ayuk, the ascension of Jauan Jennings in the offense. Deebo Samuel essentially felt like he wasn't as important as he once was to Kyle Shanahan and the organization as a whole. Maiocco also says this, that Deebo Samuel didn't just feel there was a souring of feelings towards Kyle and John and the San Francisco 49ers, but also the fan base. Maiocco says that Deebo has been, since 2019, one of this team's, one of the most favorite players on the team. When you're at OTAs, you're at training camp, all the kids, all the fans, Deebo, can I get an autograph? Sign this, sign that, Deebo. Whereas this year, in theory, that wasn't the same thing. It was Purdy, Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk, Jennings, Bosa, Warner, and Deebo's like, you forgot about me. What about me? I'm Deebo Samuel. He got his feelings hurt. He got caught up in the emotion of things. And because of that, because the posting on social media, the downtrend in play, the now trade request, according to Maiocco, he says when things soured, they soured in a hurry. And he said that, Deebo Samuel is aware of that shift from the fan base, not just the organization. That shift from the fans loving him to maybe just kind of liking him now. He feels that maybe his time in San Francisco has run its course on and off the field. And I'll tell you this, as a fan, yeah, I don't like Deebo Samuel the same way, or I'll rephrase that. I don't feel the same way about Deebo Samuel like I felt, a year ago today. Even after this team lost the Super Bowl. I love Deebo. Deebo's great. He's awesome. We'll come back in 2024 and it's all perfect and there's butterflies and rainbows. There'll be a bounce back. Awesome. But this year, you can tell there was just this exhaustion of Deebo this and Deebo that. Where is Deebo? Oh, there's Deebo. Well, it's too late, Deebo. At some point, you get fatigued. A lot of this happens during the draft process, like whether it's a music artist or the draft process, or in this case, Deebo Samuel, sometimes the less you hear of somebody, the more you tend to like them, right? It's a reason why people disliked Beyonce or still dislike Beyonce for a variety of other reasons, but we won't get into that here. It's a reason as to why people like the underground artist or people like the kind of 4th or 5th round prospect more than the 1st round guy. They hear about them too often and too much, and all of a sudden it's like, I got to hear about them again. Really, all I hear is this. Sabrina Carpenter this, Sabrina Carpenter that, Tate McRae this, Tate McRae that, Deebo Samuel this, Deebo Samuel that. People get tired of it. They get tired of hearing the same thing over and over again. They get tired of, for the drafting process, they get prospect fatigue. Oh, Will Campbell, Calvin Banks, Cam Ward, Jador Sanders. There's a reason as to why many people disliked Deion Sanders' Colorado Buffaloes. Because it was Deion this and Deion that, and Jador Sanders this, and Travis Hunter that. It was a quick hype-up process, and they were everywhere. People hate success. LeBron James, name anybody. If they're in the limelight for too much, if you hear their name too much on SportsCenter, on ESPN, on X or Twitter, if you hear it too much every single day, your eyes roll, you scroll past it faster, you tend to not care as much and get more annoyed by it the more often you hear about it. That's what happened with Deebo Samuel this year. You heard about his name too much, he wasn't playing great, and all of a sudden, he asked for a trade. And it's like, whatever, dude, we're done with you. Get out of here. You didn't play great, you're not worth the contract you currently have, I'm done. I don't want to hear about Deebo Samuel because I heard your name too much. You make it about yourself on social media, you tweet things out. We have Deebo Samuel fatigue amongst the fan base. Maybe that's just me, but it certainly doesn't feel like that. It feels like everybody I talk to, even if they still like Deebo Samuel, is annoyed by Deebo Samuel. He feels that. I feel that. I am of the point of like, look, I'm done with you. Move on. In all cases, I'm like, Deebo Samuel, although technically he's part of the team, in my own thoughts, you're not part of the team anymore. You want to be gone? Be gone. You want to get traded? Can't wait till you're gone. Like, that's my thoughts on Deebo Samuel, feeling that the fan base has turned on him to a certain degree, because they have. I don't like Deebo Samuel as much as I used to. Respect him. He was a good player for 5 or 6 years here. He got paid pretty big money at the time, but his time has run its course, right? Some head coaches, Jim Harbaugh, ran his course with Jed York, right? We saw it front and center here in San Francisco. That hoorah, smack the shoulder pads and the helmet wore thin really quickly with Jed York. Now, that was a bad decision. Trading Deebo will be a relatively good one for the San Francisco 49ers if they can get some draft pick compensation back for them this offseason. Although, unfortunately, for San Francisco, there will be no impasse made. There is no coming back together and making an agreement on things. And Deebo's done in San Francisco by all intents and purposes. And it is now expected that San Francisco is going to release Deebo rather than trade him in order to avoid that $15 million roster bonus on March 22nd, 2025, 10 days after the new league year begins and free agency begins as well. But with all that said, with Deebo being in his feelings and the ego getting involved, the fan base turning on him, this, that, and the other, can you replace Deebo Samuel? Should San Francisco look to replace a player like Deebo Samuel? Now, I am of the thought process that this offense, Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, and others, are going to be able to flourish without Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel didn't make this iteration of the San Francisco 49ers offense. In fact, vice versa. Deebo's a great player. We talk about quarterbacks being a system quarterback. You can argue at times Deebo Samuel was a system receiver. You really can. He's not a receiver really at all, actually. He's a running back, right? So I would say that the San Francisco 49ers, when I ask you, do they need to replace Deebo Samuel? What I'm asking you is, do they need to find another player that has a similar play style to Deebo, that is that yak monster underneath player that you hope when you have Ayuk healthy and CMC's back in hopefully true form, you had George Kittle out there, you have Jennings and Pearsall ready to go, and everyone's playing at their full health. Do you need to have a player like Deebo Samuel in this offense to, I guess you can say, reach the same heights as you once did with Deebo Samuel? You can say yes, and I would agree with you to a certain degree that, having a player like Deebo Samuel certainly helps you. He's a great player for a long time here in San Francisco. However, with the way things are trending, with the way the offense is trending in a different direction, Pearsall, Ayuk, Kittle, Jennings, there doesn't seem to be this pressing need to have a player with a play style like Deebo Samuel. But George Kittle today kind of essentially told the San Francisco 49ers that you can't replace a player like Deebo Samuel. And I quote here, this is George Kittle via USA Today, "You can't replace Deebo. I think he's one of the most unique players in the NFL because of what he can do. He's the greatest, best yak guy besides myself, but he's so good when he gets the ball in his hands. The fact that you can line him up in the slot, out wide, in the backfield, and do all the fun stuff with him, and he breaks tackles, he runs like a running back and has the burst, he has the speed, he has the agility to get away from the guys too. He's just a unique player. I don't think you can replace him.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
When I hear that, I go, wow. Deebo Samuel needs to fire Tory Dandy and hire George Kittle as his agent because, oh my goodness, you talk about a resounding just level of praise. That this is like a high five. I want you to get your money. This is an ultimate PR, like thumbs up. Wow. Like George Kittle, unfortunately, though, was kind of lying through his teeth, I believe that. And look, they're friends. They're buddies. They've been through multiple deep playoff runs together. They have flourished next to each other, and Kittle's never going to say anything bad about players around him. However, if we're being honest here, when George Kittle says that Deebo is one of the most unique players in football, when he says that Deebo Samuel is, one of the greatest yak and best guys in football, what he's really saying is Deebo Samuel was one of the most unique players in football. Deebo Samuel was one of the best yak guys in the NFL. There is an argument to be made, and a very valid one, that the San Francisco 49ers may be best without a player like Deebo Samuel in their system and on their team. Whether it is Deebo Samuel himself or a player like Deebo Samuel. The wide back role, the big body underneath guy that can do all this stuff, you can argue San Francisco is better because the quarterback they have, the personnel they currently have, to not have that guy. To have a player like Ayuk and Pearsall and a vet receiver that, albeit much cheaper, doesn't, like having a player like Deebo, yes, makes you more versatile, but having a player like Deebo, while it's great at times, also comes with a lot of limitations. Not a great route runner, can't separate, and it helps to have those bowling ball players, but you have George Kittle. You have Christian McCaffrey. You hopefully get Jordan Mason back, and you have 10 picks this year to hopefully get more production. You have $50 million to sign a certain player to help your roster survive and flourish without Deebo Samuel on the team next year. Let's see. That brings me to one of my last points, and that's this. Let's hypothetically say, we talked a lot about, not having a player like Deebo Samuel, not signing a player like Deebo Samuel, same play style, the wide back role, right? But if you're somebody like yourself out there that loves Deebo, you want to bring Deebo back, or at least you're refraining from trading him for a 5th round draft pick this year, and you say, well, Deebo was very dynamic for us in previous years. We have to find the quote-unquote next Deebo Samuel to help us out underneath, be a wide back, be versatile, and be that yak monster for this offense. Who is that? Because right now in free agency, it ain't Darius Slayton, it ain't T. Higgins, it ain't Devontae Adams. There isn't many guys out there that can do what Deebo Samuel has been able to do in previous years. That said, if you're on the list of people that want to either retain Deebo or get a player like Deebo Samuel, I want to introduce you to a player in this year's NFL draft. Because every year it's, this is the next Deebo Samuel. I get that. It was Laviska Shenault and Malachi Corley a couple of years ago. It was Treylon Burks as well. And none of those guys have been Deebo Samuel. But let's take one more swing at this, because now that Deebo's going to be gone out of San Francisco, you got to find the next guy, right? Who is the next Deebo Samuel? Let me introduce you to Savion Williams from Texas Christian University, TCU. out of this year's 2025 NFL draft. He's 6'3", 228 pounds, a senior. This past year at TCU, and I'm going to read these things slowly. 62 receptions, 640 yards, 6 touchdowns, 28 receiving first downs, 16 explosive catches. And I'm going to read you off what this man's physical traits are. He's a freak athlete, a freak of nature, right? He has incredible size, 6'3", almost 230 pounds. He's super explosive. He can squat 600 plus pounds as a wide receiver / running back / whatever you want him to do. He can bench 335 pounds. He has great long speed. And get this here, doesn't have great releases, isn't the best separator, has a limited route tree, isn't the greatest ball tracker. He has inconsistent hands, but he's a really good blocker. He's a kick returner. He can play inside, outside, the slot, the X. He can be a wildcat running back. He can be a true running back. He's a physical specimen. He's built like DK Metcalf, but plays like Deebo Samuel. If there is one player in this year's NFL draft, one player out there that if Kyle Shanahan's like, look, Deebo, at nighttime, I'm like the meme where Wolverine's looking at the picture and it's Deebo Samuel and he's crying, saying, oh, I miss you. I miss you so much. I wish I had you back. I need you, right? Savion Williams from TCU could be the saving grace, if you will, for Kyle Shanahan. A player that can do what Deebo Samuel does. You're probably going to get in the late second, early third rounds where fans really won't complain if it's a receiver. If Deebo's gone, they got to find somebody else. We'll then get Deebo Samuel 2.0, although I wouldn't do that. However, I can see Kyle saying, well, Deebo's gone. I got to find my next guy. Because Kyle Shanahan has been doing this forever, right? When one guy leaves, DeForest Buckner, got to find the next DeForest Buckner or Javon Kinlaw. When I might lose Ayuk or Deebo, got to find the next Ayuk or Deebo, hence why he drafted Ricky Pearsall, right? A lot of what Kyle does is, yes, improves the team, but also he preps for the future. Pearsall, yes, was a win now, hopefully move, and he can do things this team wants to do offensively, but it was a move to also protect them on the off chance Ayuk's situation didn't go their way, which it almost didn't. Like, that's just the way things are. It's a preparation process. I could very easily see Kyle Shanahan saying, if we're going to cut Deebo, got to find my next guy. And Kyle's stubborn too. In his first year as GM, he had to have CJ Beathard traded up for him. He had to have Joe Williams. Didn't even play a snap. He had to have Trey Sermon. He had to have Ty Davis Price. He has to get his guy in there, right? And sometimes that's great. Isaac Guerendo is undoubtedly a Kyle Shanahan pick. It's pretty good this year, right? Injuries are existent, but Kyle can be very stubborn at times. Very, very stubborn at times. And if Deebo Samuel's ego's hurt, he's getting emotional over this. The fan base is turned on him to a certain degree. He feels the pressure. He's done. He wants out. Probably going to get cut in less than a month now. I could very easily see Kyle Shanahan saying, I got to find the next. I got to find the next Deebo Samuel in 2025. Now, in that same vein, it goes a long way for a head coach and play caller like Kyle Shanahan to hopefully not have Deebo Samuel. The over-reliance on Deebo, despite being a really good player for a really long time in San Francisco, 2019, 2024, or 2023 actually, the over-reliance on him was just mind-boggling. Yes, you create your game plans and your schemes around him, but there are plenty of times where Deebo, who often got hurt middle of games and pre-games and whatnot, well, if he gets hurt, the entire game plan's thrown off. Go back to the Browns game, 2023. He gets hurt, can't play against the Vikings. Everything's, What do we do? What do we do? Instant panic. And it's like, well, maybe if you don't have that player in your offense, you ultimately see Kyle Shanahan be, I guess, a more well-rounded offensive play caller, doesn't have the crutch of Deebo Samuel, if you will. Hopefully, and I don't think they should, draft Savion Williams. If you don't draft him, awesome. You don't have this, well, okay, we have Deebo. Okay, we have Savion Williams. Like, no, use everybody. You have Pearsall and Ayuk and Kittle and McCaffrey and hopefully Mason and Garendo. There was this one-track mind with Kyle Shanahan. And hopefully, that can change in 2025 without Deebo Samuel.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Without Deebo, because CMC is 100% now. Great. Hopefully he's back to what he was, at least partially what he was in 2023. You ain't got to be the OPOY, but be something towards that. Give me 1,000 yards. Give me 500 through the air. Give me something to work with here. Give me 10 touchdowns. Be a viable offensive weapon once again. Brandon Ayuk comes back middle of the season, probably in late October, November time. Don't got to be yourself, but be a solid receiver out there in the meantime while you recover and get back on the field. You have Juwan Jennings. Be third and Juwan all the time. That's what he was last year. Kittle, be the all-pro you were this year. Brock Purdy, get paid and go out there and sling that sucker around like you were an MVP finalist 2 years ago. Like, this offense, in a way, although it's nice to have a player like Deebo Samuel, you don't need Deebo Samuel anymore. Different quarterbacks, different personnel. The league has, in a way, almost passed Deebo Samuel by. Now, there's always going to be players like Deebo, Laviska Shenault, Malachi Corley, Savion Williams, Treylon Burks, Deebo Samuel, even before Deebo, and Percy Harvin. Like, there's always going to be that one player we all say, oh my God, we got to get that guy on our team. That's like that. The end arounds, the jet sweeps. You're like, oh, this guy's a weapon. Well, this day and age, it's a pound the rock, play action style of football. You saw what the Eagles did. It was just like, there wasn't this overall like end around stuff. It was just, let Saquon go nuts. Pass the ball out there towards the sidelines, the perimeter to Devontae and A.J. Brown. Like, even the Chiefs this year, they weren't always, they were doing the screen passes. They were doing the running the football, the check down stuff. Mahomes wasn't doing the end around stuff. And that's one of the most creative offenses of the entire league. Teams that are winning, primarily, their offenses don't center around players like Deebo Samuel. I really can't think of the last time a player like Deebo Samuel was the number one player in an offense and that team won a Super Bowl. I'm not sure. Like, yes, you have your Saquons. He's a running back that can do other things. Players like Deebo usually aren't the number one weapon in your offense or even number two weapon in your offense, and you win a Super Bowl. You got to have players like Ayuk, in the Eagles' case, like A.J. Brown, like Devontae Smith, like Saquon Barkley. San Francisco is trying to get there. They're maneuvering the franchise in that direction, and that means goodbye to Deebo Samuel. And I don't think this team should be looking for the next Deebo Samuel either. Move on. If he wants to end that relationship, good. End it. Let him say goodbye. You say goodbye as well. And you sit there, you wait, you say thank you for your time and your efforts. We wish you your best on your next adventure. That is very simple. That is what they should do. No more, get the next. No. You don't need the next. You're already in that transition. You drafted Pearsall. That was the first kind of sign they're changing things. You drafted Pearsall. You signed Ayuk. Okay, Deebo really isn't part of the offense. You're moving in that direction. If that other party, Deebo Samuel, is willing to sever the tie, thank God he's doing it. Don't go, oh man, what are we going to do? You can still win 10, 12, 11 plus games next year without Deebo Samuel in your offense. And they can argue maybe be even better without him. Now, yes, you got to get everybody healthy, as Bobo said earlier. You got to hit on your draft picks, sign the right players. I'd rather pay the offensive line than Deebo Samuel. I'd rather pay Jordan Mason $5 million next year than Deebo Samuel. I'd rather pay DJ Jones than Deebo Samuel. I'd rather pay Brock Purdy, restructure Fred Warner's contract, bring back Dre Greenlaw, hopefully, fingers crossed, and go sign somebody else, insert whoever, Azeez Ojulari for all I care, then pay Deebo Samuel. He's 29 or going to be 29 this year. He's severing those ties. Don't look for the next. Smile and wave. Just smile and wave, boys, and move on. Shake the hands, take a bow, maybe a little curtsy in the meantime, and just say, cool, this is it. This is over. And hopefully they can find a trade partner, albeit doesn't seem to be the case. I want to thank Niners Throwback in the YouTube comments, Bobo, Fluffy Ninja, a Niners fan, Dang Fricker with about 5 thumbs up. What's going on? Historic Stoic and Niners Throwback as well. Thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you can like, share, subscribe. Leave that review on the audio podcasting platforms. Follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. Don't forget to get some goat fuel down below in the description and use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Tell me down below, though, if and when Deebo Samuel is gone, do you think San Francisco needs to find the next Deebo Samuel, or just move on, let those ties be severed, and just say, look, man, see you later. Appreciate your time. We don't need the next version of Deebo Samuel in this offense. Kawachipto says CMC made Deebo redundant. That's been a pretty popular opinion in recent years. It doesn't sound like you want to have the next Deebo Samuel, but tell me down below, should San Francisco find the next Deebo Samuel or simply wash their hands and move on? The real reason why he's upset is his ego got hurt. Mike Glennon says Deebo isn't going anywhere. I beg to differ, but if you're of that grouping and Deebo does go, do you want to find the next one? Tell me down below in the comments. Do you like the idea of Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa being this team's starting safeties next season? And how much do you love San Francisco getting $7 million more in salary cap next year, or actually this offseason, hopefully spend and bring back certain people? 49ers Throwback says, agree, and this offense has to evolve, and evolve, hopefully they will. I believe it's Robash 49ers says, I would like us to sign Darius Slayton from the Giants. It seems like you watched me on the Krug show. It's one of the names I dropped for a Deebo Samuel replacement, but tell me down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review, and my name is Sterling Bennett, and as always, until next time, stay faithful.